Welcome, everybody. Joe Tarnowski with ECRM, and I wanted to thank you for joining us. My guest today is Sean Georges, who's the co-author, along with John Buford, of Your Leadership Journey, Becoming an Authentic Servant Leader, which comes out in April. But I've had the privilege of reading the manuscript in advance. And I have to tell you personally, it's an amazing book. It's something I would recommend to anybody in a leadership position. And as you're going to learn in this interview, that's not limited to just those with leadership titles. Everybody's in a leadership position in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to do this in 4 parts. Each interview is going to touch on a different leadership topic. And we're going to release these every other month until April when the book comes out. So with that, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. And to start off, can you give us a little background on you and your consultancy and why you wrote the book?
Joe, honored and humbled. Thank you for letting me in, slip past security. So here I am. Listen, this has sort of like our book title, which, by the way, has morphed since you got an advanced copy. We are working with our publisher, Greenleaf Publishing Group, and we've come to a little bit of a twist on that. The new working title is On Mission, Your Journey to Authentic Leadership, which kind of encapsulates some really important points. A little bit about me, and remember, this is a product of probably a 15-year allegiance between a very good friend of mine, Dr. John Buford, who's also a former Marine officer, and myself. So this book is a product of both our experiences and our work over the past many years. So if it is a success, and by success, are we helping people develop their ability to lead in their life? That will be the measure. Then it will be a joint effort, no question. So yeah, I'm a Midwestern product of Indiana and Illinois. John Buford and I first met when my family moved to a tiny little town in Illinois when I was in 3rd grade. And I saw this extraordinary kid across the classroom, and I thought, oh, I want to be his friend. I want to be like that when I grow up. But since 3rd grade, we've been best buddies and played high school football together in this small town in Illinois. And we both went off to college, and then we end up at the basic school, Quantico, Virginia, at about the same time, going through officer training as a Marine. Certainly a shaping experience. So you've got all of this common experience. From there, our journeys went in some different directions. John became an infantry officer, and I ultimately became a judge advocate, got picked up for the law program. Marine Corps thought I needed some more polishing. So after I left the Naval Academy, which is where I went to undergrad, the Marine Corps then sent me to law school, University of Illinois Law. Was a JAG for the next approximately 10 years. Trial counsel, prosecutor, criminal defense, operational law of war stuff. Got to see the world and do exciting things. I'll never forget being on a ship in Singapore as the JAG for a 3-ship task force. And I'm thinking, boy, I am a long way from Southern Indiana. So the journey continued. I left the Marine Corps voluntarily, I'd like to say, just for the record, honorable discharge. But I left the Marine Corps well before 9/11 and entered private practice in Indiana. Came back home where I thought I knew the language, and if I failed, maybe I could move into my dad's basement just up the road. And then I came in-house to a publicly traded company and helped to lead, was general counsel and senior vice president of human resources for 22 years, retired last week. So Marines like missions. This is my next mission with a company that we've put together on mission leadership. So that kind of brings you up to date on what I've been through along the way.
And when you were in public life, it was at a retailer, right?
Yes, correct. That's right. Yeah, retail company that grew the old-fashioned way, brick and mortar, store by store, and we're putting the buyers together with the manufacturers. We're doing all of that hard, tough stuff you can to manage the inventory and get out there and interact with our customer. I mean, it is retail 101, which I knew zero about when I got there. And I let them know, hadn't sold a thing in my life, had only served. And so it's been an adventure, and the company has been very successful. Got about 5,000 employees, 400 retail locations, but going through the shift in retail that is happening all over the globe.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the book.
Yes.
What led to you writing the book with John?
Great question. The book came about because of conversations that we had over the years, largely after we had both left the Marine Corps. The funny thing about what happens in the Marines is that leadership and being a leader and leading well, leading authentically becomes, there is not a day that goes by that there isn't discussion and attention paid to that. So leadership was central to who John and I just are, and how we were going to move into this new civilian world from the military. So just a lot of communication about that, and we started to put our thoughts down. Went from sort of email, what about this idea, that idea, trading ideas, and sort of realizing that we had a very similar, we agreed on the core concepts. We also agreed that there is, when we looked around us out there in the civilian world, we noticed that outside of the military and a few other organizations that are really embracing a responsibility to develop leadership in others, nobody was doing this. So we thought, hey, let's get our thoughts together. Maybe we've got something to offer on the leadership front about what leadership is and what it isn't, and how you become a leader. Joe, one of the key things every military member has to do when they make that transition to the civilian world is figure out who they are and what the mission is in this new set of circumstances. So for John and I, since being a leader, leading was so central to who we were as military officers, now becoming a civilian, doing whatever you're doing, was really important for us to figure that out. How do you lead without a uniform, without rank, different mission in this new world? So the book sort of just came together of necessity as an exploration for us, and also maybe as an opportunity to share some wisdom with others.
Excellent. So, well, let's get into the topic itself.
Sure.
What is a leader? What is leadership?
Oh, that's you ask 5,000 people, you will get 5,000 answers. But I think there are some core. There's some core. Really, there's a heart to this thing, and leading is about influencing another human being in the direction of a shared mission. And you do that through who you are and what you do. You do that, you influence another person in a very authentic way through your values and your outlook on life, your beliefs, through the prism you view the world, and your actions, your behavior, how you interact. John and I are, through experience and study and all of the things over all of the years, are convinced that leadership impact, we impact others through a relationship, that you've got to get into the how you relate to and engage with the members of your team, the members of your family, whatever that team. We use the term team, keeping it small, because I think really that's how we interact, whether it's one person or a complex team. You interact with individuals who are on a team, and your role is to serve them in the direction of a shared mission through your relationship, through who you are, what you do. So it's about some core things, and we think at the heart of this leadership responsibility we have is you have to take on an outlook of a humble perspective of a servant. You are there to serve your teammates in the direction of the shared mission. That team or that individual is not there to serve you. You may be teammates, but when you get that opportunity in that moment or on a longer term perspective to lead, it's about serving. And so that's where servant leadership comes in as a real core sort of perspective on leading. Again, shared mission at the top, your teammates above you conceptually, and you find ways to serve them so that the team, can accomplish something. Yes.
And you have a diagram in the book to that effect. I don't know if I can pull it up here, but it's where you have the leaders at the bottom,
right,
and then the team,
yes,
and then the mission. And I love that diagram because it encapsulates so much, and it's of what you're trying to get through as far as the servant leadership and the point where we're all leaders. Like I alluded to in the intro, it's not just limited to title, right? Everybody is a leader. Could you talk a little bit about that? Absolutely.
That's one of the things that became clear both in the Marine Corps and in the civilian world. Leading. I love the idea that lead is a verb. That regardless, and it doesn't arise from or emanate from a title or a rank. If that were the case, we could solve the world's problems by issuing leadership titles to everyone. Let's give everyone upon birth. Let's start early, right? Let's give them a title of vice president of something or leader, or it has very little to do. Whether you are leading or not is a separate question from whether you are CEO, president, you name the title that someone may obtain in life. It is about something much more fundamental, much more organic, much more human and relational. It's about how we engage. It does not, again, separate question. You got the title, you got the position, you have organizational authority, that's fine. But are you leading? Are you serving the people around you, your teammates, in accomplishing, aligned with a shared mission? And so you can back of the napkin this thing, and that's that visual. Mm-hmm. I tell people that this is what 40 years of experience, an Annapolis education, and 2 law degrees gets you. You can reduce it to the back of a napkin, and again, shared mission at the top, whether it's your family, your spouse, your, a complex organization like ECRM, you've got your shared mission, you have your teammates, and you conceptually at the bottom with humility, finding ways to serve in the direction of that shared mission. That is where the power is. That is where the ability to bring out the best in people, to develop people, to serve and support them. That's where leadership comes in. It's about people, and it's people in alignment with mission. And when you can simplify the concept of leadership, which is often so confused, and maybe we can talk about sort of leadership versus management. When you get that right and realize that you have responsibilities on both sides, right? We manage things, we lead people. If you can stay focused on who you are as a leader, that's when life gets, in my view, really interesting and real. So that's our focus. We want to help people to understand who they are as a leader and what their responsibilities are in life.
Yeah, I think you mentioned somewhere in the book you can't lead you can't lead a KPI, or you can't lead a spreadsheet. Those
Exactly.
are things you manage, but you lead people. And the other thing that's interesting is it's dynamic, both the leadership and the mission, because sure, you have the corporate mission, and then you have the senior leadership, or the senior leaders, but then throughout the organization you'll have other people leading missions that support the main mission. But then also there may be, you put together an ad hoc team
Absolutely.
that has a leader who is not officially a leader, but they're leading that project. So talk a little bit about how that, that dynamic role and how leaders can be found everywhere.
Yeah, so that's a great point. It is dynamic. Organizations are dynamic. The world is dynamic. We learned something at the basic school, day one, Quantico, Marine Corps Basic School. And there was this phrase that started popping up, and leaders eat last. I love that phrase. Well, what's that all about? Well, it is both literal and figurative. It is aspirational and critical to leading. And the Marine Corps really embraces this, that you take care of your people first. In that you're going through the chow line, at breakfast, and your team is lined up, you are last in line. You see to their needs, their development first, and then you move through. If there are no pancakes left at the end, I love pancakes, but then guess what? You're grabbing a can opener and a can of peaches, and you're going to have breakfast. And you're building that. Your job is to serve. You're always asking yourself, what is my best and highest role in service to this person in alignment with mission? So one of the things to recognize the responsibility to manage things and lead people. For example, KPIs, critical management. Does ECRM use such things?
Yes.
Yes, right. Many organizations do. We have organizational goals, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that, nested within a complex organization, you have other teams that are working on sort of subordinate goals, et cetera, that support. But every interaction, there is generally, so leadership comes into play when there is a shared mission, a purpose in this relationship. I can be led by my 12-year-old stepson as much as I can, and so then I will either try to be a good teammate for him. He may be driving like what we're going to do for that afternoon, or I see an opportunity to serve him, and so I'm going to be leading, trying to influence in some fashion, but he may be influencing me. It is a very dynamic environment. So long as you've got clarity on what's happening, you're serving one another, you get this really interesting, and that's how the best teams work. That's how That's how complex. So what makes up the most effective, highly functioning teams? Those are peopled by individuals who are capable of leading at any point in time. And you are humble enough to know that, listen, I can step into be a good teammate role, or I can step into a follower type of a role, and we are aligned. I can see this person's is better to lead on a particular mission. They may have an insight or an energy towards a particular aspect of our overall mission. Outstanding. I'm going to step up, be a great teammate. I'm going to follow in a fully. But when the opportunity for me to lead then comes along, and I see a place where I can step in and provide energy and move us in the direction of accomplishing our mission, then I'm going to step in. A very dynamic kind of those are the best teams. That is what I think every organization in the world is looking for, is a leader-full team with people who are humble, great teammates, understand clarity of the mission, the vision. They know what we're trying to accomplish, and you get this really dynamic situation. That is magic. You do not always have to be the leader. Be a leader.
So I think from what you're saying, it sounds like a key component of leadership, right, is having the humility to know that sometimes leading is letting somebody else lead.
Nice.
Because they may have the expertise that you don't, and just because you're higher up on the chain than they are, if you let them lead, that's good leadership.
Exactly. Here's another thing, right? So you're always asking yourself the servant leader question, which we define as follows. What is my best and highest role? What is my best and highest role in service to this person or this team in alignment with our mission? You are always asking yourself. That is always the question in the central question in my mind as I'm navigating in the world, engaging with my teammates, giving or helping another person on your team find or take a leadership role, take those leadership responsibilities on, could be a key developmental opportunity. Hey, this is a perfect opportunity. Maybe they are best to lead. Maybe this is just a learning opportunity. I'm going to serve them in a way that's going to help them to develop their leadership capabilities. So there can be lots of reasons. Maybe they're a better leader on this point. Maybe you've never been to this place where the team finds itself. You've never dealt with an issue, or they're more experienced. They've got insights. They've had a success. They bring something to that leadership role. Then outstanding, ready to follow. It does not demean you. It does not diminish you as a leader or as a human being. So seeing and finding those opportunities and allowing, sometimes your best and highest role is to get the heck out of the way. You may be in the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes your best and highest role may be to ask, try to fine tune the question, try to fine tune the issue, to go find some resources to bring back to the team. It can be so many different things. That's where your judgment as a leader, which you develop over the course of your journey, comes in.
Ego's got to be a big challenge for that, because if you're sharing the power, right, you're giving this person a leadership role, and then they really do well, your prominence gets a little diminished. But the thing is that's making the whole group more powerful. The team.
Absolutely. And it also is a reflection. You're absolutely right. Humility. I loved the phrase C.S. Lewis. said something along the lines of, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Love that. So what are you thinking of? as a servant leader with humility, you're thinking of your teammates more than you're thinking of your own interests. It's that leaders eat last. That's the broader issue. You're seeing to their needs. You're seeing your responsibility is to their development. Your focus and energy is put not on, hey, how am I looking? How do you like me so far? What can I get out of this situation? The team is serving me, that top down sort of, I'm the fastest, smartest, wisest in the room. You're thinking about how can I serve them, make them faster, smarter, bring out the wisdom in the room, keep us aligned, continue to serve. One of the things that as I was trying to figure out this leadership thing after I left the Marine Corps, and with that experience and figuring out what is authentic about leadership, I came upon this quote from the 6th century BC, from the Tao Te Ching, Chinese sort of a collection of wisdom. And one of the things, I don't have it in front of me, but it's just a brilliant little snippet about leadership, and leadership at its highest level is where the leader as leader, the titled leader, sort of disappears from the picture. It's about the team, and the teammates, the members of the team say, look at what we accomplished. Amazing. We did it by ourselves. It's so not about the leader. It's so about the team. Now, the leader is a part of the team, but it's about the team that accomplishes something in the direction of mission. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, a person leading is serving. And they're serving in a humble way, and it becomes the pride, the effort, what they build and accomplish together is the thing. Now, if it has to be about you and your ego, I would suggest a career in management. You just can't lead authentically from the place of me and me as a center. You have to lead from a place with your teammates as a center in alignment with mission.
Yeah, one of the things that really resonated with me was when you talk about the relational view of leadership versus transactional, because like using me as a personal example, in my role in creating content and helping guide us with thought leadership and social media, I don't have any direct reports. However, I am trying to get as many people involved, and it's the relationships because they have to want to do it. I can't, quote unquote, make somebody do something. Right. So I think it's so important. And you talk about that mutual trust that has to be there. And so if you could talk a little bit about that, and also maybe reference your courtroom example that you have, that welcome to the courtroom example that you had in the book, which really drilled it home.
Happy to, yeah. Leadership is a very relational kind of leadership is a relationship. It's a set of responsibilities that are built upon the relationship we have with the people around us. You mentioned trust. I can go marching into a room with a bunch of people who were placed on some org chart, and we've got, KPIs and all of these things we're trying to accomplish. And I could start ordering people around, and we could be very sort of mechanical and transactional. We could have goals. We could have a bonus program. We could have incentives. We can have the threat of punishment. In the Marine Corps, we had the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which was always sort of there. We've got laws and regulations. We have all of these things. We can we can attempt to move people, to influence people by promise of some incentive or bonus, or by threat of punishment, and that's one way. What you get in that kind of a culture, and that builds a culture, what you get in that kind of a culture, generally speaking, is mere compliance. Mere compliance. You can get people to jump and snap and hop, right? You can get them to move, but are they bringing everything they've got to the table? Are people bringing and developing creativity to problem solving? Are they bringing, hey, I've got this other thing I can do, and it's aligned with our mission. I'm going to bring that to the table. And no, they're now in an environment where, okay, I want to get that bonus, or I want to not get in trouble. I want to not be called out in public and embarrassed. I do not want a beating, right? So I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, what's in my job description, etc. That is it. That is all. You're not going to get the best of a team. You are not going to create a team. One of the things that comes from viewing leadership as in a relational rather than transactional way, where transaction, you get paid X amount to do Y activities at a certain effort level or whatever. These are the results we want to see. A very transactional kind of approach. Or if you fail, you may get demoted, you may get terminated. It's just that is something far different from that relational aspect, where you have an opportunity to earn respect. You have an opportunity to earn trust. Leaders create that environment. Authentic leaders are working at creating that environment where trust grows and increases. And you get into what I think Stephen Covey called the speed of trust. A team that has developed that trust, man, you can finish each other's sentences. You're on mission. Everybody's bringing their best stuff. You're motivating one another. You're holding one another accountable. Those are the teams that it probably like ECRM from what I've observed in your organization. High trust, high respect, accountability, right, across the board. Teammates holding one another accountable. It's a whole different ball game from a org chart, top-down delivered model with specific assignments, and just a whole different ball game. It's viewing yourself not just as, hey, here is my job, but here's my responsibility to lead. Here is the welcome to the courtroom example you mentioned. So everybody has a first. This was my first contested court-martial as a Marine Corps judge advocate at Camp Pendleton. It was a fairly simple case. So by contested, that means that we don't have a plea agreement. We're going to go in there and fight and scrap. I was a prosecutor, so a trial counsel. There was a defense counsel, really experienced, sitting at the table right next to me. There's the judge. I had a case, and I won't get into too many details, but it wasn't that complex, but there were multiple witnesses. There was a lot of documentary evidence. I had to get into evidence, and I thought I had prepared fairly well. We get into court, and I just started. The defense counsel, tripped me up from the beginning. Objection, Your Honor, lack of, didn't establish the baseline to get a document into evidence. Just really, junior level type things I had not fully prepared myself and my witnesses for. And it's embarrassing to talk about, but we learn through sometimes when we fall flat on our faces. I ended up, it was a very trying, I think it was like a 2-day court-martial, and it was crystal clear that I was not doing well. I did not get the conviction. At the end of the day, the judge calls the Judge does what judges do. He judged, and he said, there is no conviction. Says to the defense counsel, you can let your client go. And I'm grabbing my stuff, trying to disappear as quickly as I can. The judge says, "Counsel, will you approach the bench?" "Yes, Your Honor." I get up, walk up there, and he said, "How do you think it went?" And I said, "Sir, I don't think it went well." And he said, "You are correct." He said, "You tried to finesse some things. You've got some work to do. I recommend you get back at it." "Yes, Your Honor." Walk back, grabbing my books and files, trying to get out of there. I turn around, and there is a senior officer who was on the team. He was head of the trial counsel, in fact, the whole legal team there. And he had given 2 days of his life to be in that courtroom to watch me in my first contested trial. Wasn't necessarily his responsibility. He could have come at the very end to see what the results were and realized I had failed, and he could have, chastised me, embarrassed me, whatever. Instead, he asked me the same question the judge did. "How do you think that went?" I said, "I'm embarrassed and disappointed. That did not go well." And he said, "I agree." He said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "It stings." And he said, "Good." He said, "Feel the sting." He said, "Here's what we're going to do. You've got some good basic skill set here. You've got some good skills in the courtroom. You've got some things to work through. I want you to feel the sting for a while. On Friday, come to my office, bring your file, bring your notes from this case. We're going to go through this thing, and we are going to learn from this. I'll share wisdom with you, and we will learn from this. We're going to grow from this experience, and I am going to help you." And I said, "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." And then he looked at me and he said, and smiled, "Welcome to the courtroom." A shaping experience. He could have walked away and said, "Oh, this guy's terrible in court. I'm giving up on him. Next man up, right? Or we'll give him the weak cases and the whatever." Instead, because he didn't just view himself as a technician, as a lawyer, he viewed himself and defined himself as a person with leadership responsibilities that included me, one of his teammates. He was going to do that leadership thing. His best and highest role was to make me better, to help me to get back on the horse and to learn from this experience, to build my confidence the right way, to get me back in that courtroom and help me to develop. And it made all the difference. It was a really a powerful experience early in my career. I think after that point, I developed some confidence and competence in court. Never made those mistakes again. Yep. And I also led in that same way. Serving my Marines in the direction of mission, helping them to be better, helping them to learn from their experiences. So that was powerful.
Such a powerful example. And the thing is, what it really points out is that also authentic leadership takes time. Yes. You need to invest time into these relationships and get to know them as people too, not just as what they can do for you, but who are they, what motivates them. Right. And then I'm guessing after that, you would have walked through fire for them. I mean, someone like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are some of the things that happen. And these, even the small things matter to people, matter to us as human beings. We are social creatures, if you will, us people. And when someone is willing to invest their time and energy in you, you're absolutely right. What comes back, and from your perspective, exactly. ready to run through a wall for them. You're building that mutual trust. You're holding one another accountable. Listen, he didn't say, "Oh, I thought you did a great job," or "You're really good on your feet," and just ignore the stuff you need to work on. Let's get down. We dealt with, hey, you didn't get this piece of evidence into. You had problems with this. There was accountability, but it was from a place of a servant. And you're absolutely right. Relationship was stronger. My confidence built. My competence developed. And all of the things. And it was an elevating experience that could have been absolutely, your first time out. If you fall off the bike and you don't get back on it, you might never get on the bike again. And instead, I love trying cases, love being in the courtroom. So thanks.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And that's the thing is, especially in today's rushed world, so much going on. The one resource that people are limited on is time. But if you have to make that time, carve it out to work with your team to learn who they are, what they're about. And then this way, I think it's one of the first things you mentioned in the book is, people have to give you permission to lead them.
Right.
If you're going to do it authentically. And there's no better way to earn it than putting your time in and building those relationships.
Perfect point. Must be earned. When I think about the idea of efficiency and leadership, it's an inefficient, if you want to look at it from a management perspective, it's an inefficient thing. Building a relationship, building an authentic relationship with another human being. There's sort of, now we have all of these technologies, and so you have this sort of approach of high tech. Can you lead in the Zoom world? The answer is yes. Can you lead remote teams? Yes, but it's high tech and high touch. You still have to invest that time and energy, and people need to see you genuinely concerned and involved in what is going on and in their lives, and being human and being less than a perfect specimen of whatever it is, whether it's a profession or whatever. It's not about you being perfect. It's about you serving your teammates. So yeah, there's this, it's every bit, takes all of the energy and effort. It is inefficient, if you will. So considerations of efficiency and leadership are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. We do have limited time, but boy, if you're not spending a great deal of time and focus and thought on what your teammates need, or at home, what your spouse needs, or your significant other, or your children, or in the community, what my neighbors and community folks need, how can I serve them? Then you're not leading. You're just kind of coexisting, and that's when there are problems.
And you say it's inefficient, but I think it's just inefficient in the beginning. I think
nice point.
You put in the time in the beginning, and then later on, I think you probably will get more of a payback than if you didn't.
Excellent. Great point. Important point. You're absolutely right. After that sort of, we did that, out of the courtroom, went by the major's office, and we really spent a lot of time kind of working through this. I was even more motivated. I was more capable, and I worked in a different way, shared a lot of wisdom with me, and a lot of the kind of his sort of process and perspective on trying cases with me. You're absolutely right. I was empowered. Hate to use that phrase because everybody does, but literally had been trusted. I had a sense I was more capable, and then I could run, started running. Right. And that's right. He had to do less and less of that. Mm-hmm. I'm more and more capable. I'm a better teammate, a more capable lawyer. And that's what happens in our lives. You're absolutely right. Put in the work as a leader, serve and support. You know, I just retired after 22 years in corporate America. I have a core group, had a core group of teammates around me that had been with me that the entire 22 years. They are so good now. They are so capable. They are so mature in their thinking. They are so expert in their approach. They have been listening and watching and learning and growing all along. My job by the end, I had done what Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching sort of talked about, rather than me, engaging at a high level and really, I had come to a point where they really didn't need me at the end. They were so ready. They were so capable. They were operating at such a high level. I was unnecessary to their ability to accomplish what they needed to accomplish, so that we could move towards mission. And you sort of, I think in one way, a leader's ultimate opportunity or goal is to make themselves unnecessary, right? As a leader. I could still be a good teammate. I was always the lawyer, general counsel, so I could add my be a good teammate from that perspective. But as far as leading them, it was just joyful.
I think that's a great way to wrap up the conversation on leadership, is serving them so well that you become unnecessary. So we talked a lot about what leadership is. Right. Let's talk a little bit. We'll wrap it up with a little bit about what leadership is not.
You bet. So that's a great point. And I think, I think what happens in the world I've observed is that there's a fear of leading. There is somehow it seems safer to try to manage people along through through KPIs and goals, and here's our strategic approach, and we'll measure you, and every year you'll get an annual review, and we'll document all of these things, and we'll try to just drive behavior. As I said, I think you get a lot of mere compliance in trying to manage your way there. I think that's what happens a lot, is either the avoidance of leading, and instead trying to fill that gap with management principles, rather than engaging as a servant leader, serving your team in the direction of mission. So I don't know if there are sort of personal fears, but usually you can, when you see a top-down, very org chart driven kind of approach, where people, well, that's not my direct report, so you need to talk to that person, and I will hold them accountable in appropriate ways, and those kinds of things. All of the direction flows from on high. Mm-hmm. All of the initiatives, we will only make the following initiatives as directed, where the information is often hoarded and at the top. I'll tell you, don't need to know that. I'm not going to share that with you. Where relationships are not built among human beings, where the individual leader is at the center of the relationship, and instead of the model that we've talked about, you've got this top-down structure where humility is not present, where people are not respected, where what you gain as an organization is not shared, what you accomplish, where the light is directed on title leaders and not on the people that are doing the work. You get a lot of really dysfunction, and a culture that is built on something other than serving one another in the direction of mission. That you are going to operate as a team or as an organization at a far lower level than what you could be in the model that we think is really authentic. But the problem. So what's the problem? Why does that exist? Maybe more often than not. I think the tide is sort of turning. I think people understand that there's a better way to do this and a higher road, and the toleration for those kinds of autocratic sort of leadership models and cultures, people are not tolerating that in the same way they used to. Culture matters in the quality of our lives and in the kind of work we can bring to the table. And people they're going to go to that team or that organization that is serving their people in the direction of a shared mission. It is my humble opinion that the top-down model will become a thing of the past. Now, listen, that doesn't mean you don't have to have clarity, right? Clarity of mission. There is accountability. There's got to be all of those things, but it's the way you get there. And I think that the teams of the future and the organizations that not just survive, but succeed and compete are going to be those that are peopled with, that are full of servant leaders capable of bringing out the best of the people around them, their teammates, in that direction of a shared mission. I think families that succeed, communities that thrive in the midst of change, companies that do it well, there has got to be a change into the authentic leader model, us leading as servants in the direction of a shared mission. And people are not going to stay long so it's becoming a really a very critical issue, I think, at least in our society. So we really need to get on mission, to use the phrase, about the way we create leaders, clarify what leadership is, and separate management from managing things, processes, inanimate objects to leading human beings. If we can do that, and again, you often have both responsibilities, right? Responsibility to manage, but the opportunity to lead people. If we can get to that rather than the top-down org chart, hey, I don't have any direct reports, I can't lead, so I'm just going to be a good individual contributor. Well, guess what? There's more you can do, and you do have leadership responsibilities. You just are not recognizing them. The hole that is created when we fail to recognize and step up to our leadership responsibility in our life cannot be filled by another human being in the same way you could fill it in your life, your relationships, your family, your team, the people you interact with. No one can step into that place the way you can step into that place. No one can lead from where you are in these relationships with vendors, with all of the people that you engage with, for example, Joe. So every one of us, we have to recognize the leadership opportunity, and then we have to step in and say, listen, I am going to lead as a servant from this place. What is my best and highest role so that we can accomplish the mission? If you don't do that, you leave a hole, a black hole that no one else can fill, and we are all less because of it.
Great. Awesome stuff. I think if more companies put that to work, there's going to be a lot more effective companies and a lot more happy and empowered. Well, you said you don't like to use that word, but it's true. You'll have a much more fired up workforce too. So thank you so much. This has been awesome. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to doing the next one. And how can everybody find you? What is your website?
Yes. So our website is up, still in its infancy, but www.onmissionleaders.com. So onmissionleaders.com, all one long word. And you'll be hearing more from us as we go forward. LinkedIn is also a good way to reach myself and John Buford, and we're looking forward to this journey. And we'll talk more about the journey, I think, in the
Yep.
next section. Yeah.
Yep. We'll be doing 3 more of these. We're going to cover a lot of
Nice.
ground on each. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Joe. You're a good man. Thank you.